Hey everyone, thought I'd share some thoughts on some of the comic books I've read this week. Not that my thoughts are that clear, really. I read Afterlife with Archie. I enjoyed the package. But look at that, even the back cover is not devoted to ads. There's a whole bunch of text at the back. I forgot about that. I haven't even read it. But it's really nice art. A good deal for $2.99. Now my Archie knowledge is shallow. Maybe that's all you need. But I've only read a little bit of Archie here and there. But so it felt odd to have these characters with no humor that I could see. Well, there was a little bit of humor in the Betty and Veronica arguing about who was going to get to dance at the Halloween dance with Archie. But there's kind of a flatness to the characters that surprised me a little bit. I thought there'd be a little more of the zing that I think of as being kind of the goofy silliness of Archie. But maybe it's actually very artfully done where it relies on your knowledge of these characters, but then you suddenly see them transmuted into kind of a quieter, more realistic characters who at the same time are facing this, as far as we know, unrealistic zombie apocalypse that's coming at them. So I guess I recommend this comic book. Maybe I'll have more to say about it when the next issue comes out. I wasn't blown away. I was just kind of left, that's interesting feeling. But I don't know about Archie's other comic books, but they put together a really, really nice package here for a good price. Another nice package, but at too high of a price, at $3.99, is Triple Helix, a new comic from John Byrne. A new #1, but it's actually a continuation of the story from his very brief run where he did a comic called Trio, which I think it went for 4 or 5 issues. If the art here, see again, I'm running into I don't know what I'm thinking exactly. The art here was really good. It was classic John Byrne. I don't think he's lost any of his artistic chops. I really enjoyed it on the visual level. IDW, gives you really nice thick paper and everything. That seems to be the theme of what was the paper like in this comic book. I think, and it's an old-fashioned comic, in the sense of he even in the captions describes stuff that you might argue should just be conveyed by the pictures, as they used to always do. Silence, punctuated only by the incongruous porcelain clink of shifting brick on brick. Now a voice cuts across this scene of destruction. That voice carries the tones of one used to command, and strange shapes bestir themselves from the roiling smoke and dust. Those are well-written sentences, but it doesn't feel like a well-written comic book on the level of the real content. Whatever real content Byrne has here, he hasn't brought out fully, and there's very few surprises here. Although I was surprised when this Gathalga villain was dispatched very quickly. I wonder if there's a twist there coming up. So, because I have a strong affection for John Byrne's art, and he's doing the art really well here, and I'll keep following this comic book despite the high price. I make kind of an exception on my price rules for John Byrne here. But just kind of out of mild curiosity to see what he'll do. This would be a great comic book for a 10-year-old or an 11-year-old. Someone who is more easily surprised by the kinds of things that they used to always do in superhero comics. So anyway, yeah. Seems like the art here is even quite a levels up above Trio. He kind of took a break from this superhero story and did some science fiction stories like Doomsday Plus One. I glanced at those and they didn't immediately strike me, but with the high quality of the art here, I wonder. It makes me think that that Byrne needs a collaborator, either a co-writer, co-plotter, or a strong editor who's one of those editors who really works with the writer on what they're doing in their story. So yeah. Okay, here's one I can actually really slam. Stormwatch. Written, I'm sad to slam it. Oh, look at that, I got it bent. I'm sad to slam it. And the art was decent. But I would say out of the 20 pages of the story here that 15 or 16 were kind of flashback of backfill, info dumping, as they call it. Just Starlin has all these characters and all this background. There's basically in this one issue, 3 levels of unknown bad guys that have to be introduced and explained. And so there's no actual action, just a whole lot of talking. So the artist had to work really hard, I suppose, to try to make all this talking and flashbacks interesting. I haven't been following Stormwatch. Maybe if you've been reading all the issues, I think I stopped around issue 20. I stopped after 2 issues of the Jim Starlin run, and I thought I would, because Jim Starlin has such a good past track record, I thought I would dip back into it, see if it grabbed me. I wonder if this is his attempt to be like the 90s Image, the just huge array of characters and costumes, but without any emotional connection at all. The Earth is in danger again. Isn't it always? Anyway, it's odd. It's an oddly, in this day and age compared to what most DC and Marvel comics are like, it's very odd. I guess all of these comics, each one is a little bit odd in its own way. Superman, Wonder Woman was also a nice package. 22 pages plus the fancy cover for $4. I'm probably going to get a few more issues. Because I really like Charles Soule's work on Swamp Thing, I had kind of high expectations for this. And I feel like so far he does an okay job, that he kind of, has these sessions of people talking about their relationship, like in one of those relationship movies, or like in Sex and the City or something like that. But there's also some interesting stuff about Clark Kent and his job with his blog and everything, his news blog. And the art is very nice looking, except that I'm not a fan of the way Tony Daniels does these characters' faces. They feel too young to me. I guess I don't know how old Superman's supposed to be, and I believe that in an issue of Wonder Woman somewhere they mentioned she's 25. So, I don't know. See, I don't know what I think. I really like the back half of this cover showing all of Superman's villains and stuff. That's really nicely drawn. Boy, this is really random. So I guess my main thing is, well, I guess it's no spoiler. Everyone knows that the big villain that shows up here is Doomsday, who to me is always one of Superman's most boring villains, because he's just an unstoppable force. So you need a really good story around him, I guess. Maybe Charles Soule will surprise me and do something interesting with Doomsday. He just shows up at the end of the book. Yeah, I'm sorry guys, I'm going off the rails here. So the main thing is, it seems like the way they're the conflict in their relationship is too on the nose, too obvious. We know it all already. It's just that he wants to keep their relationship a secret, and she wants their relationship to be public. But I feel like there could be all kinds of interesting nuances between Kal-El and Diana Prince, Wonder Woman, and how they relate to each other and how they relate to the world. They both have superpowers that are pretty extreme, but they come from them in very different ways, and their relationship to our world is very different. And so I kind of imagine in my head some really cool exploration of a relationship between two people like that, along with the great responsibilities and burdens that they take on. And perhaps they can understand each other on that level, and then other areas where they have trouble understanding each other. So I hope it moves away from the kind of just so relationship that they have at the moment. We'll see. Astro City also pulls $4 out of my pocket, and I'm a little bit pissed about this, because I know if I were waiting for the trade, I could save so much money. And the trade would probably have all kinds of Alex Ross sketches in it and stuff. If they want to charge more for the floppies, they ought to give more in the floppies. Instead, there's a preview for Hinterkind, making it feel more thick. And I already have Hinterkind. It already came out before Astro City did. But judging that alone, aside from that, it's a very... I like the art by Brent Anderson, even though it's kind of retro. To me, it's retro in a good way, and very much fits Astro City. It's kind of, what an 80s artist who was influenced by Neil Adams would probably draw like. And that's pretty much what Brent Anderson was in the 80s, and he still is. But he's a very good storyteller. And Kurt Busiek, in this issue, does 3 or 4 stories that each one gets interrupted. And you're like, I want the rest of that story. It shows how good of a storyteller Kurt Busiek is, and just how many stories he has just sitting around in his back pocket. I felt kind of discombobulated, a little out of it reading this. Like, I'm not sure where he's going and what he's doing with all these interruptions and this strange, crazy guy who's talking directly to us and talks to us about us wanting stories, and how all the stories in this issue will pay off in any way. So I'm sort of dazzled by the great storytelling of Kurt Busiek, and at the same time left a little lost and a little wondering what's coming next. But so far in a good way. If he ties things together, and I understand why we're here with all these stories from different times in Astro City and what it all means. So if he can pull it off, it'll make a great trade. I'm not sure why, because very few Vertigo books are $3.99. I'm not sure why this one is $3.99, except maybe they know there's people like me who feel like they have to have Astro City, and can't wait for the trade. But when I figure out where the arc ends, I might think about switching to the trade. So I think that's it for what I'm going to talk about right now. I've read more comics, but I will be discussing those with Travis when the two of us get together this in a week's time. We will be, both of us, driving 3 hours, meeting in the middle of this huge wasteland that's between us, and we're going to try and do a no capes review show together, where we'll cover 2 or 3 weeks worth of no capes. In other words, non-superhero comics, such as Trillium and Coffin Hill and 3 and all of those good ones. So talk to you guys later. Bye bye.